You're listening to The Analog Dungeon, a podcast where I present a dungeon module or pre-printed adventure from the storied history of Dungeons & Dragons to my friend, and we make jokes about it. On this episode, we're going In Search of the Unknown, the 1978 module written by Mike Carr for the first edition of D&D. This is part 1 of 3. Enjoy. Well, Jeremy, we are going way back to the early days of Dungeons & Dragons. Ooh. Original Dungeons & Dragons, if you will, for today's module.
Love it.
We are going to go in search of the unknown. That's right, Dungeon Module B1, part of the basic rule set. If anybody listening to this is someone who played this to learn how to play D&D, first off, take your ibuprofen. Don't forget your heart pressure medication, because you were playing D&D in the 70s.
That's right, the swinging 70s.
Late 70s days. The height of D&D's early popularity, the moment when it truly caught fire and began to become the phenomenon that we know about it.
That's
today.
Right. This is even pre when before Tom Hanks killed D&D for a little while, right?
Yeah, the Satanic Panic did come along and do a number on things. However, before it could really get fire on it, it had to become super popular first, and some of the nascent events that led to that all kind of occurred around the same time that In Search of the Unknown by Mike Carr was being printed by Tactical Studies Rules, or TSR, being put into boxes along with a basic rules booklets for Dungeons & Dragons, and being printed and sold across the US. So we're going to talk a bit about that history, because there's some really interesting story, as there usually is, around the events involving TSR. And believe it or not, usually involves money and lawyers. So we'll be talking just a little bit about that before diving into what makes this module interesting, where there are some real twists and turns that players may not be expecting, especially if they're brand new to the game, that will set the tone for adventures to come, and also why there are still lessons to learn if you are a new dungeon master or an interested new player, to go back and read kind of how stories and dungeons and dungeon modules kind of originated. This is by no means the first dungeon module printed for Dungeons & Dragons, but it was a starting point for many, being published as part of the basic rules set.
Like getting into D&D before D&D was a part of the zeitgeist, when it was like there was no frame of reference. Like, you were coming into here completely blind. You'd never seen Stranger Things and watch them play it. There no Saturday morning cartoons. Like, imagine encountering a brand, like tabletop games were at this point Monopoly in life. And it's like, oh, so you're playing a board game? No, well, there was chainmail and stuff like that, obviously, but that was so super niche that it's understandable you might not have even heard about that. This would be, imagine coming into tabletop role playing game just as blind as you can possibly. Oh, I need dice. What, you mean like the cubes? No, there are different sizes of dice. What are you talking about?
Like, where's the board?
Yeah.
Where are the figures?
Where's my piece?
Where's the cards and things?
Right.
What do you mean the rules are literally a library's worth of books?
Right. What do you mean I have to do homework? I need to bring a sheet with my character? We're not writing a book, so
there's
percentages. Percentages,
rules.
And I like to think like what it must have been like to have somebody, like, have a friend come up to you and be like, dude, we're gonna do this great thing, okay? We're gonna go hang out in my basement with 4 other guys, and you're all gonna make up characters, and then I'm gonna explain what your characters do in a dungeon and probably kill them. It's like, couldn't we just, I don't know, like, get high and listen? Yeah, get high and listen to the radio. Like, shouldn't we just ride our bikes down to the ravine, and if any of the movies about this time ring true, like, go poke a dead body with a stick or something? Right. But no, this is the birth. Oh, have you heard of this thing called D&D? No? Well, you're about to.
Yeah. So to kind of set the stage, we're in late 1970s, 1978, when Dungeon Module B1 is published as part of the D&D basic rules. If you got the D&D basic rules, they were a box set that had the basic rules pamphlets, as well as this module, an introductory module for character levels 1 through 3 inside. Now, a lot of the details surrounding what happened with that book and why it was only in the box set for around a year or two are detailed in the 2021 book Game Wizards, the epic battle for Dungeons and Dragons, from historian James Peterson.
D&D historian.
Now, yeah.
That's a title. That's a title to have.
I mean, to an extent, we're all historians in Dungeons and Dragons, except it's all personal histories.
Yeah.
It's all like revealing our own individual made up histories.
Or maybe he was the first one to decide, I'll write a book about this.
Yeah.
That's really what makes you a historian, right? As you wrote a book about a thing.
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt. Being married to a historian and historiographer, having a book-length thing written about it is definitely one of the starting points you got to be at.
Yeah.
So, in 1978, TSR, Tactical Studies Rules, has been printing Dungeons & Dragons for a few years. Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson created Dungeons & Dragons out of the chainmail rules set, which had been used for wargaming, bringing different things to the table. But Arneson was very unhappy with how he was being compensated for his work. He had moved on from TSR several years back and had discovered that he had not been being paid the full royalties according to Peterson. He was only being paid a fraction of these box sets' value because, as TSR told him, well, you only wrote the rules. You shouldn't receive the same amount of money that would go for the plastic figures that are inside, or the maps, or any of the other things. You should only get the amount for this portion that you wrote the rules for. And Arneson did not feel that that was correct. He felt that he deserved to be paid according to his contract for the whole thing. So he was threatening legal action. Now, at the time, the business managers, the people who were running TSR, decided that they wanted to swap out some of those plastic components inside with a module, with an adventure to get people started playing D&D. They were looking for a way to be able to expand this beyond the few thousand copies that they had been selling per month.
Which they were selling primarily through like wargaming magazines, right? That's where it's sort of the in was being sold through wargaming magazines, or I guess locally and in
yes, you're dealing
Wisconsin?
with a very, very niche population,
right.
Primarily wargamers, because those were the people who were most familiar with chainmail and with its later offspring, Dungeons and Dragons. And those were the people who were already in the same vein of wanting to play something like this. People who had been putting little armies on the board and had been working with rules around them for years by this point. But TSR decided to swap in this adventure module written by Mike Carr, who was at the time managing editor over at TSR. He was Arneson's friend. He had played in one of Arneson's campaigns by that point. There was some idea that perhaps that Arneson wouldn't really follow through in suit when he would be taking money out of his friend's hands as opposed to Gygax's hands.
Right. And Arneson, I think it's important to note, like, what Arneson brought to the game, right? I consider myself a little bit of an Arneson stan, because I feel like he kind of gets left. He wasn't in the Futurama episode, right? Arneson, like, when you talk about co-creating D&D, Arneson in his home games and his Blackmore games, that this guy would have played in for sure. He was the first. He's credited with introducing, like, playing cooperatively, having the players work together to develop the story, like to develop a story. Because before it's just sort of like chainmail, like you have an objective. If you reach the objective, you win. His style of playing was more kind of, I'd say kind of the way we do it today, is the way D&D ended up becoming a kind of a cooperative storytelling, right? He invented the idea of individual character roles, as in having a character that had its own characteristic and backstories and motivations, instead of playing, Knight 1 or Elf 3, right?
Exactly,
He
yeah.
was the one who brought, if you've ever read anything about Blackmore, like he put the dungeon in Dungeons and Dragons. He was the first to like have them explore dungeons where there are monsters and looking for treasure, and he invented the dungeon master.
Right.
The new,
Like the
and if you're
early
thinking like, what else is there to D&D? That's what I'm saying with both hands raised above my head. Like,
Right. The earliest forms of this kind of looked more like roguelikes do
mhm,
today,
mhm,
with a primary character pushing into the dungeon as far as they could go before eventually retiring, and then their offspring or future generation coming back into the dungeon
right.
with all of the experience that their ancestors had gained and that they had been handed down to them, maybe with their ancestral weapons or whatnot.
Sure.
So, yes, Arneson brought in many of the things that we would consider staples for modern day Dungeons and
Mhm.
Dragons. At this time, 1978, there were still not enough people playing this to start what we now understand as D&D to really spread. But something would happen that would be unexpected and would drive D&D into the spotlight. Around the time that Carr's module, In Search of the Unknown, is being published in the basic guides, a college student named James Dallas Egbert III disappeared in a series of steam tunnels beneath his university. This kicked off an investigation into his disappearance, as well as the suicide note he had left behind in his dorm room. And one of the things that detectives keyed into early and floated as a possible explanation for Egbert's disappearance and the note he had left behind was being involved in the hobby of Dungeons and Dragons. It became an urban legend, this mythos that spread quickly through the news, despite the fact it had zero bearing
Right.
in reality
Right.
at all. Egbert had actually left the steam tunnels after some time with a friend, decided to move down to New Orleans and had simply not been in contact with anyone. Months later, he would connect back with the people back in his hometown to tell them where he had gone and to set the record straight. But by that point, the legend of what had happened to him had already been spread through news and media and people. And as a result, D&D exploded into mega popularity. The basic rules at this point, with In Search of the Unknown inside, had only been selling a few thousand copies per month, and it shot into the tens of thousands of copies per month, reaching 100,000 copies sold per quarter by the end of 1979. Now, Carr was earning around 11 cents per copy of the basic rules that were being sold, and when that number of printings shot through the roof, his take home began to be a lot more interesting. So much so that Gary Gygax noticed, the original creator of Dungeons and Dragons, alongside Arneson, who's still working at and running TSR at this point, and decided that there was something to putting a module written by yourself inside this hot selling product, according to James Peterson. And that is when, after about a year plus into print, Gygax switched out In Search of the Unknown and put his own module, the now famous B2, The Keep on the Borderlands, inside instead. That shipped out with the basic rules at the height of the D&D boom in 1981, selling around 750,000 copies each year, cementing
So the
D&D.
D&D hipsters, we're talking about
Yes.
the D&D hipster dungeon here. It's not when they sold out. It's not when D&D went mainstream. This is like if you were a real player, you were playing In Search of the Unknown. I liked it before it was popular.
We can definitely get our hipster cred card punched for that now.
100%.
Now, In Search of the Unknown was, as we had said, intended to be for introductory characters, brand new dungeon masters, and included a foreword by Mike Carr that explained bits and pieces about how it was expected you would run the game. And if you read this today, there's a lot in here that doesn't quite match up with what we might think of when we're playing Dungeons and Dragons today, such as an old school practice of keying dungeons. If you look at the actual physical module that's shipped, it is a folio style book. It has a paper pamphlet with all of your adventure modules stapled together inside, and then it has the cardstock outside cover, which printed on the inside has the maps for In Search of the Unknown. The upper levels and lower levels of the Stronghold players are about to investigate. And because of that, it doesn't have pre-written monsters and treasures assigned to rooms. Instead, players are expected to key the dungeon by rolling or determining which monsters and which treasures from a list at the end of the booklet would go with which rooms. Each description of the different rooms has at the end of them a blank space for a monster and for treasure and location. So dungeon masters were advised to first, before starting the adventure, go through and list out which of the monsters would be in which rooms and which treasures would be with them.
So good replayability, I guess, for this dungeon, which I guess the title, because I was going to comment that, let's be real here, In Search of the Unknown is a horrible title for a module. It's basically like, I mean,
yeah.
what does it mean? Looking for something.
It's non-specific, right?
It's
like the keep on the borderland,
right?
Is very visual.
We know what a keep on the borderlands is. There are borderlands, and by God, there's a keep there, and that's where we are. We're at the keep on the borderlands. But In Search of the Unknown is like,
it's the difference between a fortune cookie and a statement.
Exactly.
Like, In Search of the Unknown is a mission statement.
Yes,
it's not exactly a dungeon description.
Right. It's you could be in search of the unknown basically anywhere.
Now, there are reasons why In Search of the Unknown works in this particular case, which we'll get to when we talk about the characters and the lore figures that are at the center of the dungeon. If you wanted to play in this, then you were expected to make a new character or to pick a pre-generated character from the list of clerics, fighters, dwarves, and halflings, magic users, and elves that were in the back of the book.
Love pre-generated characters. They are the most fun.
It is expected that you would have between 3 and 8 players going through the module, possibly including something that is more common in older versions of Dungeons & Dragons than they are today, hirelings or retainers.
All your buddies who do the things that you and your friends are not capable of doing.
Right. There are quite a few points at the beginning of the book that help dungeon masters to figure out what they may need to be prepared to handle when their party enters. From Carr's notes, since it is important to offer a challenge commensurate to the player's level, this 2-level dungeon design is made specifically for exploration by beginning players in a party of 3 to 6 adventurers, player and non-player characters combined. The 3 to 8 is mentioned in a few other places later. This is reflected in various ways. In general, the dungeon is less deadly and more forgiving than one designed to test experienced players, aka the horrific dungeon traps that they had played through with other DMs like Arneson and Gygax before now.
Yes, hard cut Arneson in his basement, and then the spears come out of the ceiling, and then the ceiling falls on the entire party. Everyone roll. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. This says you die, no save. I guess we're starting over.
It is designed to be fairly challenging, however, and is by no means easy. Careless adventurers will pay the penalty for a lack of caution.
How dare you be careless?
Only one of the many lessons to be learned within the dungeon.
We love a lesson. Listen, y'all, this dungeon isn't here for fun. The dungeon's here to teach you something. This is more after-school special, less Saturday morning cartoon.
God has put this dungeon before you to teach the lesson, and God's lessons are beautiful.
So,
very next beat, very next comment. The dungeon is designed to be instructive.
So that's the old school D&D way of saying y'all are gonna learn today.
Most of it should be relatively easy to map, although there are several difficult sections, especially on the lower level, where irregular rock caverns and passageways will prove a real challenge.
So mapping is a huge part of the game at this point.
Yes, it is described a little bit later when you're talking about how the player characters kind of organize themselves, that they need to determine a marching order before they go onto the map in the first place. So determining who's where and when, and it even describes a common marching order would have 2 players at 10 feet abreast, basically a 4x4, a 2x2 box.
Sure.
Possibly with someone in the center. And then that they would have a caller, a player, not a character, a player who is dedicated in the group to being the primary point of communication to the dungeon master, so that you have kind of like a quiz bowl team, the other members of the group all kind of talking to each other about, well, what if we do this, what if we do this, what if we do this, and then the caller is the one who says, okay, DM, our party does this with this person going here and doing this.
So it's very Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Because the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you can kind of talk about what you want to do at any point, right? But at the end, but you don't lock it in until you say,
is that your final answer?
Exactly. So this is and is that your final, I mean, what is that your final answer, if not the game show equivalent of you can certainly try?
Right. And the dungeon master has also said, hey, there may be times when a player will want to speak to you directly and tell you what they do, and that is okay too. Use your best judgment. Or there will be times when they say, hey, dungeon master, tell them you need to make a decision about this thing that is happening, and then start counting down from 5.
We love the countdown from 5, baby. Nothing strikes. And you know what? I think next time I DM a game, I'm bringing the countdown from 5 back. Because I want to strike the kind of fear into the hearts of players that in old school they would hear 5. Oh god, wait, no, wait, 4. I don't know. I'm gonna go over here. No, I'm doing this, and I'm 3. Like that just there's a chef's kiss, throwing everything into chaos.
Like, I could also see it if you're with people around a table where you tell them the thing and then you hold up a hand with 5 fingers on it and they just start like talking, like, what are you doing? What's this? And then as soon as you put one finger down, they explode in panic.
Absolutely. It's like one of our favorite games, Pit. It basically becomes a session of Pit where you're screaming corn in your wife's face and hitting people with your cards.
2, god damn it! Don't you trade me that bullshit, bear! 2, fuck you! I know you.
If you give me wheat one more time, so help me God, I will pull your fucking tongue out of your head. I don't care that you're 6, Kevin. Give me wheat again. You won't see 7.
There are people in this world who know how to play spoons and who feel like immense panic at the thought of the melee of spoons. And then there are people who know the true terror of a good pit.
That's right. Pit will get you. Pit will get you.
So some of the other things that are described in the book as these are things that will be featured in this adventure that players should be prepared to possibly see in other dungeons going forward include several one-way secret doors.
Yep, we love it. Secret doors out the wazoo.
But specifically, a door you get trapped on the other side of.
Oh, okay. No, that sucks.
Yeah, one-way secret doors.
Gotcha.
Illusions and magic mouths.
Okay, good.
Love wind corridor, which may extinguish torches and open flames.
Which leads you to, what was the purpose of the wind corridor in a dungeon? Like, dungeons had a purpose. There wasn't somebody out there just building a dungeon and filling it full of monsters for randos to come through. And so what was the purpose of the wind corridor? what does the windy hallway do? Is that where you, like, is there an attached bathroom always, and that's where you get out and you kind of blow dry your whole body?
Well, I would say if you've ever watched a Goblin Slayer episode, you know the danger of going into a dungeon where you can't see. Because they will just cut you off at the knees.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because everything inside there can see in the dark, and you can't.
So,
And
so I guess
also,
that
your
would be
magic
a
user's screwed because you can't
yeah.
see any, especially at
That's
first level.
true. Yeah,
Like your magic user's like, well, I can't see anything, I can't cast any spells, and now they're dead because they
So
had 2
you're
hit
so
points.
it's basically it's a dark room that you can't have torches in because it blows your torches out.
Exactly. But if
Okay,
it
well,
happens, but
fair.
imagine like a wind tunnel and you're halfway through it, and that's when it activates.
Sure.
And yeah,
All the
so
lights go out, and then you're like,
yep.
everyone stay still. Who's stabbing me?
Other features include a room of mysterious pools. This is
Yeah.
probably
I
this is
mean,
probably one of the most well-known features from In Search of the Unknown.
yeah, classic. We love a mysterious pool. Is it water? Is it acid? Is it blood? Only one way to find out. Throw the halfling in.
A room of doors. It's just a large room that's a bunch of smaller rooms that all have doors around it,
Mhm.
but nothing inside of it.
What is a room if not a room of doors?
Yeah, right.
Any room you can get out of is a room of doors.
See, that's why we're saying that people are actually donuts, and that just the more you think about it, the less is the
Yeah.
better off. The less you think about it, the better off you are. A water pit trap, which suddenly drops adventurers to the more dangerous lower level of the dungeon.
Oh, before you're ready.
A portcullis trap, where vertical bars drop behind the party in a dead end corridor.
Classic trope of fantasy movies everywhere.
A pair of teleport rooms designed to confuse explorers.
And if you're mapping, like imagine you walk into a room
intended.
and then suddenly you're somewhere else and you're like, I haven't seen this before. Where do you put it?
No, this is the other one. This is the imagine you walk into a room and don't realize you've been teleported somewhere else.
Oh yeah, then your map's all right. Imagine, oh my god, imagine
Oh
mapping
yeah.
and then
Oh
going, I'm
yeah.
gonna turn left, and the DM goes, you can't turn left. Wait, why can't I turn left? Because there's no opening left. There's just a wall there, and the person who's been, we know who's making them. We know who's drawing the maps, right? It's
the person at the back of the party who didn't
yeah,
want to be the person.
right, exactly. It's the same person who takes notes for the party and writes down all the treasure, right?
Yep.
That's the person at this era who's making maps. And imagine the cold sweat they get into when they're like, my map is wrong. Love it.
Several magical treasures, most beneficial, but some cursed.
Yeah, well, cursed treasure is a classic. It's a hallmark.
And mysterious containers with a variety of contents for examination.
Most of those contents are poison barbs, in my experience. So this is basically you're like, they're like, okay, these are we're setting up the menu. This is what you can see in most dungeons. You're going to run into a little bit of it, so you sort of know it when you see it.
Right. So a lot of that has to do with the mechanics of sitting down and playing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time under the old rules and what you could expect going into this module. But as you go into it, there's a lot more detail about how to set this story up. There's a full background section that describes the important characters in the story of the world, how and why the dungeon they're about to enter works, why In Search of the Unknown is its title, and a whole back page of background just for players to be able to read that could be photocopied, handed out to them, and they could then understand what it is that they're undertaking. So
Nice.
with that, we are going to begin our search of the unknown.
Music sting.
Yep. Jeremy, I want you to imagine that you are a character or maybe even a group of characters.
I am a group of characters. I am sleeping with myself.
There you go. You have grown up in this world that you exist in, a world of fantasy and magic, monsters and myth. And 2 figures stand out in your early reckoning through stories that had been told about them when you were young, possibly even legends that reached you as you were in your formative years, beginning to undertake the training that would make you the adventurer that you are in the current day.
Yes.
And those 2 figures,
Rambo and the T-1000.
Those 2 figures are Rogon the Fearless, a fighter of renown, and Zelagar the Unknown, a magic user of mystery and power. Now, what is told for players is that They have heard stories about Rogan and Zelagar's epic journeys for years. These two would travel the wilds searching for adventure and to prove that they were the mightiest of arms in the case of Rogan, or of the mysteries of magic in the case of Zelagar. There were questions about whether or not these individuals were on the up and up, or if they might be perhaps a little shady, possibly even evil people who had some dastardly hand to play in misfortunes that befell so that they could test their powers. But what is known for sure is that at some point they retreated. They disappeared from the public's eye and
Rogan ended his podcast, the most popular podcast in the land. That really made some people sad.
I want you to fix
that was a Joe
mind.
Rogan joke.
No, it was a Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe Rogan. But no,
yeah,
seriously, I need you to take that idea and I need to fix it in your mind, because the chadification in the like sarcastic term
sure
are things you want to think about these two people about.
Sure. It's Chad 1 and Chad 2, Chad the fighter and Chad the wizard.
Yep.
Okay.
So Rogan and Zelagar are Chad 1 and Chad 2. Chaddle D and Chaddle Dum.
We know which one's which. Let's be clear.
No. We know who's who.
We know who's which.
They disappeared into the wilderness, taking their resources and their hirelings and all their followers, and began construction on a stronghold that they would then inhabit and range out from. And this began to be known as the Caverns of Quasqueton. Now, before we get to
Quasqueton,
Quasqueton,
Quasqueton. Yeah. No, I like Quasqueton because Quasqueton is the name that Will Wheaton checks into hotels under when he doesn't want anybody to know that he's staying there. No, that'll be the presidential suite for Quasqueton. Yes, that's me, Will Wheaton, with a funny mustache.
You're here to MC this weekend's full nerd con. I don't know who told you that, but can I get a wake up call like at 6:30 so that I can make sure to make the first event?
I sell vacuums and vacuum accessories. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Quasqueton from Dayton, Ohio.
From the Quasquetons. Because here's the thing. Quasqueton is a real town.
What?
No, it is.
Where?
I looked this up. Quasqueton is a real town.
It's in Wales, isn't it?
It's in Iowa.
Jesus.
It's in well, of course it's in Iowa because it's in, you know, a lot of Lake Geneva where Gary Gygax was from, like that whole central Midwestern area. That's where most of the people who started D&D were from. So it would make sense that Mike Carr would write using a name that was in an area that he would be familiar with, such as the Wapsipinicon River, with an old mill monument at Quasqueton, according to the Wikipedia page on Quasqueton, Iowa. I know it's Quasqueton. I know it's got to be Quasqueton. It's got to be.
I don't know. I like Quasqueton. It feels good. It's fun to say.
It is population 570 at the 2020 census.
Okay.
The location where several Native American trails intersected, and has a home designed by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Hey, I like that.
Who was not the architect of the stronghold at the Caverns of Quasqueton.
But he should have been. They were nice big vaulted ceilings, good Art Deco stylings, really just a top.
A lot of mid-century modern stuff in it.
Yeah, a lot of mid-century modern.
Yeah. So Rogan and Zelagar built this place over the course of a decade and are said to have lived there for quite some time, trying to stay as far away from civilization as they could. Just two bros living out in the middle of the woods in the cavern complex they built for themselves, staying far away from anybody else because they didn't want to mess with them. Unless they wanted to go out and go adventuring.
Okay. Oh. We were talking about these fellas as like Chads, but there's they moved off into the woods to live together, them and all their buddies, and they I don't know. I have some. I'm looking at Rogan and Zelagard in a new light.
Are we recasting them in our heads?
I'm looking at them in a new light, and I'm just saying, when you get to the caverns of Quasqueton, you open the door and you hear it's raining men playing from inside. I'm just saying, I'm not surprised.
No,
and I support it wholeheartedly.
I am someone who is very much a death of the artist type person. Once you've created the creation and it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really into the rereadings that can occur to be able to open this up.
Yeah, Rogan and Zelagar are gay. They're a gay couple. They're incredible, and they just wanted their peace. They wanted to build their own chateau.
Canonically, fabulously.
Yes, fabulous. Yeah, I've completely changed my mind. Big fan. I regret the Joe Rogan joke entirely. I love these guys.
Joe Rogan is entitled to his privacy.
That's true. That's true. Joe Rogan
and to live the life that he wants, even if the legend that he is putting out about himself may come into conflict with that. So, Rogan and Zelagar did range out from this on a couple of notable occasions. Firstly, on adventures to be able to improve their reputations and to grow their own powers, but also to stop a barbarian horde from invading the local civilization. They were instrumental in appearing in a valley pass that these barbarians were going to charge through, and with their retainers and men-at-arms, putting a stop to them. It is said throughout the legend that they had a big beef with these barbarian tribes that existed in the wilderness near the caverns of Quasqueton. Later on, Rogan and Zelagar, several years after that major battle, would then disappear on a journey in order to take the fight directly to these barbarians in their homelands and perhaps drive them off forever. And that leads us to the events at the beginning of In Search of the Unknown, because rumor has reached civilization that several years ago, a climactic battle involving these two took place, and you are just now hearing that they perished in the fight.
Ugh, I was just getting attached.
Which means that the caverns of Quasqueton are unoccupied and open for looting.
Well, now I feel bad about going into the dungeon. I don't want to loot the fabulous home of Rogan and Zelagar. I want it to become a museum and tasteful bed and breakfast. So that's
a shrine to their memory.
Yes, we're going to go in. We're not looting. We are repurposing. We're going to put up some shiplap. We're going to turn it into
a preservationists
we're upcycling. We're going to a museum. Tasteful B&B.
Right. So one of the things at the beginning of the module is a legends table. And this is where players may individually know or find out certain things, some of which may or may not be true. So Jeremy, how many people are in your party?
Oh, well, I think I'm feeling a party of 5.
Party of 5?
Not the show from the 90s, but like a party of 5 people in the party.
Would it be kind of classic fighter, rogue, cleric, wizard, bard?
The whole. Well, okay. So what are the classes? Aren't we still in?
We are still in original D&D. So
fighting
we are still with clerics are one. Mm-hmm. Fighters, dwarves, and halflings are the other.
Sure.
Magic users and elves are another.
Sure.
And thieves.
Right. So we'll go cleric, we'll go wizard, we'll go fighting man, we'll go dwarf, we'll go thief.
Gotta have the dwarf.
Gotta have a dwarf. Gotta have
dwarf representation. So we have a cleric, a magic user, a dwarf and a fighter, and a thief.
Yes.
So each of them would roll a 4-sided die to see how many legends they would know at the outset of the game. So go ahead and give me a roll for one of those characters.
Okay. I have a 4-sided die right here. 4. Rolled good, rolled well.
Unfortunately, that character has no legends that they are aware of.
Okay, so if you're teaching people how dice work, pro tip, don't make the first roll not indicative of every other roll they'll ever make in their history of playing the game.
We like high numbers to mean good things.
Yes, high number
We're
means good.
simple creatures. Let's try another one. Let's say that was the thief. The thief doesn't really know much.
Yes.
Let's say the magic user is looking around.
Well, I guess I would say feast or famine, but I rolled a 1.
All right, so your magic user would know a single legend. You would then go to the legend table and roll a 20-sided die.
So you want me to roll a 20-sided die?
Yeah, give me a 20-sided die. Yeah.
It is green with white numbers, in case you're curious. And you do the free dice rolling
the full ASMR experience.
Yeah, the full. Here's the dice rolling ASMR. Rolled a 2.
Excellent. So your magic user would have heard tell that Zelagar, the wizard, had a wizard's workshop in the stronghold where he worked on magic stronger than any known to man.
I feel like we could have assumed that. Right?
But here's the interesting thing. This is like being passed around as like, word, from person to person, right?
Sure.
Well, several of the entries in this table are false. And that's one of them.
Oh, okay. See, what do I know?
This is just a false rumor. Some of the other false legends that exist on this table include all treasures that Zelagar and Rogan have are cursed to bring ill to any who possess them. Or
so why would you then enter the dungeon?
Yeah, but you might decide that, oh, that one's a lie. Because after all, like, why are people saying, oh, it's all cursed? Well, that sounds like the kind of rumor that they would start to keep people from getting their hands on their stuff.
Gotcha. So right? Okay. So they're making you think right off the bat. They're not giving you background. They're saying, here are some things you might know or might think.
Here are a couple of legends that your players would not know are true, but are actually true.
Sure.
One of which is the complex has 2 levels.
Okay.
Part of the complex is unfinished. The complex has a rear exit, which is secret and well hidden.
Wow.
Troglodytes have moved into the complex in absence of its normal inhabitants.
Troglodytes!
Yep, which is true. Troglodytes are one of the featured monsters that are in the list with a couple of different entries in the back to key into the dungeon.
And the countryside.
Zelagar and Rogan enslaved orcs to do the menial work, and some lived permanently at the stronghold.
Am I back off of Team Rogan and Zelagar? I'm getting whiplash. Okay, no, I'm no longer on Team Rogan and Zelagar. We don't. Yeah. Rogan and Zelagar. We do not cotton to enslaving creatures.
Right.
I will take a stand on this podcast today. Slavery, not a great idea, bub.
No. So this will eventually get the players together. They'll gather their resources. They will head off into the wilderness in order to deal with the caverns of Quasqueton and perhaps find out all the secret treasures and knowledge and anything that there is to be found in this abandoned stronghold for 2 legendary adventurers, Rogan and Zelagar.
I like it. I still don't think the name is... I still think the name is bad, but I like the setup. It's a dungeon, but it's not really a dungeon, and it's it's evil. I mean, I'm gonna call these guys evil. It's evil, but not like a horrible lich, like evil coming from out of the darkness. It's just 2 guys that suck. Interesting. So I do have one question, because I think this legend thing is cool. I dig it. It's interesting. What if can 2 characters have heard the same legend? And if so, could they have heard the same false legend?
Well, according to the legends table, if you do roll a duplicate, you're instructed to roll again.
Okay.
So that your characters each receive different knowledge.
Sure. Okay. I was going to say, because if one of the legends is Rogan smells like lavender and puppy kisses, and 2 people get it, I have a feeling that like they're gonna be like, well, that's gotta be true. I don't know why we would know that, but that's gotta be true.
I will tell you one of the interesting things that are listed on here. There are 2 that I particularly think stand out. One is there is an enchanted stone within the stronghold, which will grant a wish to anyone who chips off a piece of it and places it within their mouth. Okay,
And
quick
that's
guess.
fake. And that's fake.
It is false.
Oh, I love that.
But about 75% of that statement is true.
Is the untrue part the part about putting it in your mouth?
You'll have to wait and see, because there is actually it plays into a part of the dungeon that we're coming to.
am definitely the guy that's walking around. And I like this is so I'm going to do a little bit of work in my mind palace. I'm imagining a character not telling the rest of the party that this is the information he has, and he's like, I'm gonna get that rock and I'm gonna get my wish. And so he's just walking around, and occasionally someone in the party will see him reach down, pick up a piece of a rock, break it in half, pop it in his mouth. He's literally like, Tryon, why did you bring a rock hammer with you? Oh, you never leave home without a rock hammer. I mean, this is the most important part of my kit. I mean, sword's fine, but you gotta have a rock hammer. So, but are you like a Jew? No, I just big fan of rocks. So did you chip off a piece of that stone and put it in your mouth? You know what? How about you leave me alone? How about you let me do what I'm going to do and you do what you're going to do? You do magic and I'll eat the rocks, okay?
The dwarf is just like approving all of this. And
dwarf's down with it.
He's like, that's like, here, you want some of my snacks?
I wish I would have brought a rock hammer.
So that's the most egregious out of all of these, though. The one that I think I almost like, I want to find that person and I want to give them this particular legend.
Sure.
Rogon owned a fantastic gem as big as a man's fist that was worth more than 100,000 gold pieces. Ooh. And he kept it hidden in his personal quarters.
And that's entirely false?
That is entirely false.
Guys, I know we've been in here for 4 days.
Right.
But this guy could hide some stuff, okay? It's gotta be here. We've literally burned everything. We've burned every piece of wood. We've overturned every stone. We've knocked down 3 walls. There's no stone in here.
Yeah. I will say there are a bunch of secret doors and a bunch of illusions, a bunch of secrets in this, as befitting most old school modules. But that's one that, nope, that one just is not there.
I would hope that they use that against the players later, that there's like an illusion of a gem and you reach out and you touch it and you get like catapulted into the ceiling or something.
Oh, yeah. So let's move on to the Caverns of Quasqueton.
Excellent.
So your players would travel out into the wilderness, eventually arriving at a treacherous pathway leading up to a craggy outcropping of black rock. Only by sweeping away vines and branches which are blocking a cave-like opening will the players discover the entrance to the Caverns of Quasqueton. The opening leads straight into the rock formation, with a 10-foot wide corridor leading the way to a large wooden door.
So we just start in the dungeon.
Yeah.
There's no coming from the local town. You'd roll like all the roads are maintained and well organized. There's periodic campsites. No problem. You just roll right in.
Yep.
Okay. I'm down with it.
So, at the entrance, you have a door. What will your party do at this big, stout wooden door that is the entrance to this fabled stronghold?
Someone's going to knock on it. I don't know why. It's that is the absolute, that just happens. Someone always knocks on the door.
Yep. Well, knocking will not do anything.
Okay.
Although if you are a particularly vengeful dungeon master and you want to kind of set the tone from the start, you might instantly roll on the random dungeon monster table to see if there happens to be a wandering monster and their knocking gets their attention.
Yeah, they just walk in, open the door. Hello? Yep. Oh, wait, some guys I can eat.
Yep. So you are instructed on every second turn. A turn would be like one round of action with people doing stuff, which takes maybe about 10-ish minutes.
Sure.
Check every second turn, and on a 1 in 6 on a die, you roll a monster. And the monster table has 6 wanderers on it. Orcs, giant centipedes, kobolds, troglodytes, giant rats, and berserkers.
What? Berserkers. Berserkers.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, okay. Berserk. Like, just... Why would berserkers be in here?
Well, this is a dangerous wilderness that is near barbarian encampments.
Okay. Oh.
So these are
that does bode poorly for Rogan and Celicar if there's berserkers running around the halls.
Oh, and this is it's also meant to be like indicated that it's been years since Rogan and Zeligar went into the barbarian wilds, and it has been years since this battle took place.
Okay.
And rumors are just now reaching civilization. Because this is a fantasy wilderness world, magic, speedy communication does not really exist.
Yeah, right.
So I'm more interested in what happens when the giant centipede opens the door.
Hello, opens the door, giant centipede falls out.
There's just like the centipede with rubbing all of its little hands together, like, come in.
It's like that old SNL skit with the land shark.
Yeah.
So, but to answer your question, like, yes. What do you do? Well, I'm putting myself in. This is the first time I've ever played D&D. So there's a door. Yep. If I don't knock on the door, I just open the door.
Yeah, and the door will open.
Oh, good.
The door opens freely, although if players examine it closely and on a percentage chance, if they don't, just by how many people that there are, they would notice this just walking by, ye olden passive perception.
Yeah.
It's a 10% chance per player in the party, so you would get a 50% chance to notice this. They would notice that the edges of the door have been chipped and battered, as if someone forced their way in previously.
Okay. But no traps.
A little bit of story.
We still have we have not learned to check everything yet. We are new, fresh adventurers, wet behind the ears. Our sword is shiny and clean. We're ready to go. That door was just a door. Every door will be just a door.
And many of them you will find in this adventure. So once you enter the Caverns of Quasqueton, the first thing you're going to find is something you better get used to, and that is a hallway. There is a long corridor, one of many, many corridors that make up the upper levels of Quasqueton. This long corridor has 3 alcoves, 3 sets of alcoves, pairs of alcoves on either side of it at intervals down the hallway. It is said that they were meant to be used for defensive measures against people trying to enter Quasqueton with ill intent.
Sure. You make them go a long way. If you've ever played Dwarf Fortress, that's exactly what you do. You make them go a long way, and you create a murder hallway.
Yep. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So
these are murder hallways.
Yep. So as you are heading down, do you think your party would be like just looking out for obvious danger, or do you think they might be like really poking and prodding things?
Wet behind the ears, looking out for the most obvious things, looking for, any on guard probably, but just seeing what's there. This is like a fantasy novel. They don't poke and prod at everything in a fantasy novel. They stand around looking good with their shirts off.
Yeah. And you don't have any elves in the party, so
that's
no
right.
automatic rolls on secret doors.
Yeah, exactly. I've never even heard of a secret door. Why would you make a door secret? It makes no sense.
So, hey, if I haven't heard of the secret door, you know what that means?
Secret door's job. Yeah.
It's doing its job.
Yeah, it's doing its job.
It's doing its job, and no one can blame it for doing a good job.
And who am I to stop a secret? I mean, if there is a secret door and you discover it, then you ruin it.
As the head of Secret Door Union member 506, we just got to say, all these things that are meant to make secret doors easier to find, we don't truck with that.
No, that's
scab work is what that is. All right, so you are heading down this hallway, going by the alcoves, which means as you pass the second set of alcoves, you will miss the secret doors that are embedded in the backs of both of them, which lead into different wings of the dungeon. Your party would continue forward until they reach the third and final set of alcoves, just 5 feet before a flight of stairs leading up about 6 or 7 or 8 stairs, not very high, to the next level. In these last alcoves are a pair of magic mouths. Ooh. And according to the adventure, this magic omen will be triggered as soon as any adventurers reach the point in the corridor between the 2 alcoves. When this occurs, A mouth appears on the side wall of the east alcove, and another mouth appears on the side wall of the west alcove. The east mouth speaks first, in a booming voice. Who dares enter this place and intrude upon the sanctuary of its inhabitants? After but a moment, and drowning out any attempted reply by the party, comes the reply from the west mouth. It doesn't matter who you think you are.
Are you kidding me? Did they
No, it doesn't say that.
Oh, damn it. I was going to say, did they just predict The Rock? That's amazing.
We found the secret lore of where the Rock's thing actually came
The
from.
Rock,
he was actually
huge fan of D&D. He's sitting there playing it. He's got his, he's not bald yet. Little kid. He goes to say, well, I am Sir Darga. It doesn't matter who you are. And he goes, that hurt my feelings, but it was also funny. I'm going to remember that for later.
Right. It does not say that. But you should, as a dungeon master.
Yeah, oh no, that's hilarious.
No.
Oh.
But what it does say is pretty good. It interrupts the players and says, only a group of foolhardy explorers doomed to certain death. Then both mouths will shout in unison, woe to any who pass this place. The wrath of Zelagar and Rogan will be upon them. The mouths will then begin a loud and raucous laughter, which fades its intensity as they disappear from view. They are a permanent feature of the stronghold and will reappear on every visit.
So here's how this came to be. This is the first time that it's been Zelagar and Rogan. It's always been Rogan and Zelagar before. So Zelagar definitely put these in, and Rogan definitely hated them.
That's absolutely a perfect read.
Zelagar is absolutely you won't imagine what I put at the end of the murder hallway. It's amazing. Watch this. Walk up. It starts screaming. Rogan's like, this doesn't even give them information. So okay, well, you can turn it off when there are no why would I turn it off? This is awesome. Every single time, like, Grogon's carrying in groceries. Who goes, oh, son of a bitch. He forgets about
it. There's the sound of one of their men-at-arms just like cursing loudly, and the sound of eggs spattering on the ground.
It's the
how much they cost right now?
It's the hirelings. They fucking hate this. They fucking hate this area.
It does give it a kind of Spirit Halloween kind of feel to it as well, considering how abandoned it has been. And you walk in, and the first thing that happens is like one of the animatronics that's been just dusty and untouched for years just suddenly goes, "Bah!"
It really should be, if you recreated this dungeon, you should really, instead of magic mouths, just make them straight up animatronics.
Right. But we are not done with the scene setting atmospheric elements yet.
Love it.
Past the alcoves and up the short flight of stairs at the top, there are 3 corridors splitting off, going north, east, and west. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of this intersection is a grisly sight: the remains of hand-to-hand battle with no less than 5 combatants dead. The module says, upon examination of the bodies, if the adventurers choose to do so, it will be seen that 3 of them were adventurers themselves, explorers from the outer world. This ill-fated trio obviously had their first and last battle at this spot, like really ragging on the new guys coming through and just, getting like wiped in the beginning zone.
Right.
The bodies arrayed here, each in various stages of decomposition, are as follows. The stench of decaying bodies is strong and repulsive, and the sight doubly so. Body number 1, a human fighter slumped against a wall. His broken sword, sheared off about 8 inches above the pommel, tells the story of his demise. The body has been stripped of any armor, and there are no items of value on the remains, other than a belt pouch with 5 gold. Body number 2, a human magic user, impaled against a wall. The killing sword, still thrust through the body, is lodged in the wall, which has a large section of wood at this point. If the sword is removed, the body will crumple to the floor, exposing a blood-stained carving. The carved letters form the word Quosquetan in the common language.
That is a big-ass piece of wood.
Yeah. The sword, upon being removed, will prove worthless, since its handle is very loose and the overall quality of the weapon is poor.
It will not
The body,
heal.
yeah. The body is bereft of any items of great value. The magic user's robe, now bloodstained and ruined, has a pocket, and within it a purse containing 2 gold and a pouch full of garlic buds. Body number 3 is a dwarf fighter. Face down in the corridor just east of the intersection. In his right hand, he still clutches his warhammer, and it appears that he crawled wounded to this point, since a trail of dried blood leads back to the battle location. A sack turned inside out lies alongside the body, now empty. Armor has been stripped from the body, although the fighter's helm is still on its head. The headgear, though, has a noticeable dent in it, which will make it unusable and therefore worthless. There are no items of value on the remains. Body number 4 is a human berserker fighter, obviously a guard who defended to the death. The body is sprawled on the floor, and a broken wooden shield lies nearby. A human berserker fighter is body number 5, another guard. This body, with a bashed head for the blow of a warhammer, lies on the floor face down. There is no armor or weapon on the body except a small sheathed dagger on the belt. The belt is very ornately decorated leather, which would appear to be worth something, except for all the bloodstains ruining its appearance. And this is also our first keyed location with a monster and treasure. Ooh. So you could have something from the treasure table possibly overlooked on one of the bodies. And you could have another monster that has shuffled in from the smell of the blood or the sound of you hammering on the door when you first got here.
Or the sound of the magic mouth screaming at you.
Or definitely the sound of
magic. Yeah.
The sound of the magic mouth should like instantly lead to a roll on the wandering monster.
For sure. So could you have... Okay, so the way keying works, it's a monster and a treasure together, or could it just be a monster, or could it just be a treasure?
It could be just a monster and a treasure, but also the treasure table is loaded with a bunch of semi-worthless items.
Okay.
So there could be certain things thrown in that just kind of add a little bit to it, but don't really like give treasure.
Like an NFT.
Yes. One of the complaints of reviewers when they go back on this, one of the cons of this is that there really isn't enough treasure overall, especially considering a very important point for early Dungeons and Dragons. Gold is experience points.
Yeah, that's right.
Whenever you leave the dungeon, you tally up the experience of all the monsters that were killed during your foray. You would do this every day that you'd adventured, and you left the dungeon. You said, okay, you adventured for 2 days, you killed these monsters, they're worth this much experience points. And then you would add all the gold that had been taken in items and, loot from the dungeon. And all of that added together makes your experience total, which is then divvied up, including to your hirelings and retainers, and that's how you level.
I will say having worthless items on a treasure table, beyond just meaning it needs a new name because it's no longer a treasure table, it's treasure and worthless shit table. Right. It kind of seems like a bad idea. Like, what if you only ever roll worthless shit, and then your adventure's like, oh, okay, well, there was very little reason to come in here. For some reason, every room has a broken mop in it. Like, weird.
Well, that's, to an extent, that is kind of what could happen. That is the risk of adventuring. If you want to run a dungeon and you want to run an adventure in this kind of dirty, desperate style, then it is entirely possible that players enter a place and, just due to poor fortune, don't find anything worthwhile.
It's been pre-stripped.
Exactly. Or that the thing they did find was like the only thing that's worth anything left. Yeah. Remember, these are first level adventurers.
True.
So, from here, you have 3 choices: north, west, or east. You can see corridors stretching long to the north with other branches off of them, as well as several doors, which indicate rooms ahead to the north. Mm-hmm. To the west and to the east, there are corners that turn back towards the direction that you entered Quasqueton in. Mm-hmm. So they probably run in parallel to that long-ass hallway that you came in.
Sure. We probably don't want to go back. Probably, no, you got to go forward, just like a shark.
Got to go forward?
Moving forward. So I do like how this is sort of laid out, because it's telling you, if this is your very first time ever even considering something like D&D, that you could, like with the emptied out bag and stuff like that, you're killing monsters and taking their stuff. Like you're killing things and taking their stuff. So these things could have valuables on them.
Right.
But keep an eye out. See if that's the case.
I would be thinking, hey, something took their stuff. We should go find and
yeah,
kill
let's go
them.
find the thing that took their things. Did you
and
talk
then
about
take that stuff?
Did you talk about what monsters were possible to be keyed?
Yes, you had in the list orcs, goblins, kobolds, troglodytes we mentioned.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah,
also on the list. There's like multiple entries for some of these monsters. So there are 25 total entries of what monsters could be keyed to different areas. And those they have stats as well as a variety of other pieces of information to go with them to be able to key in. Some of the more interesting ones, other than just like we have essentially the host of early first level monsters here. Gnolls and goblins and hobgoblins, skeletons, giant rats. There are also Black Widow spiders, a single Black Widow spider, which would be pretty dangerous on its own.
Wait,
Crab
but like a giant, one.
A giant one.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. I was like, wait, one Black Widow spider? I mean, yeah, dangerous, but
right.
In danger of being stepped on.
Yeah. Crab spiders, carrion crawlers, giant centipedes.
God, I love a carrion crawler.
Yeah, ghouls, and ocker jelly.
Ooh.
A band of bandits, 1 to 4 bandits.
So like a rock band of bandits.
Yeah.
Hello, we are a band of bandits.
Well, to be fair, if they're the bandits, they're probably the roadies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fair.
Yep. Got a little time. They're gonna write a dungeon in the meantime, then show up in time for a sound check. So from here, if you head north, I'm going to describe these sections of the dungeon kind of in blocks. You would go north from this four-way intersection, one being the direction you came for the entrance. And to the north, there would immediately be doors on your left and to your right. These are to the kitchens on your left and the dining room on your right. If you would proceed forward, there are another pair of hallways that split left and right, before eventually a hallway would curve to the right-hand side as well. We'll get to those in a little bit, but first, we need some food.
Yeah.
So the kitchen is immediately to the left from this intersection, and the dining hall is immediately to the right. The dining hall is, big enough to be able to serve quite a few people, but it's not exactly the most decorated, grand, luxurious thing. It says that this room serves as the main dining hall in the complex. It is here that guest banquets are held. It is modestly decorated, frugally so, since there appears to be no items of great value, which are part of the decor. There is a nicely carved wooden mantle surrounding the room at a height 7 feet off the floor, and the stone walls are also carved in simple yet pleasant designs. The main thing of note that's called out here is 2 chairs stand out from the rest, those being the personal seats of the stronghold's illustrious inhabitants, Zelagar and Rogan. Remember all those rumors we said about Zelagar and Rogan? We're only going to get more ammunition about this as we go on.
Oh, I'm telling you. I mean, that can be 2 things can be true. That could be true, and they could be bad because they took slaves.
Yeah. So it's described as both of these chairs are ornately carved walnut, formed from a single enormous block of wood, which forms a portion of the wall in the northeast corner of the room. Upon closer examination, it will be seen the chairs themselves are actually fixed seats connected to the wooden structure, thus being unremovable. Their great beauty is apparent, but is marred by a greenish fungus growing on portions of the walnut. It is obvious the seats have not been used for quite some length of time. So it's like 2 chairs built from the same big hunk of wood that they're also still attached to.
Right. So they brought in this big chunk of wood to be part of the room, as well as these sexy ass chairs.
Yeah,
dual chairs. They're like right next to each other. It's close enough that they can hold hands.
They're attached to the same big piece of wood, is what it sounds like.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's another door that takes you out of the dining hall.
That is very king and queen. That's very king and queen. Let's be really clear here. That is very king and queen. Like, that's not like,
it's very monarchical.
Yes, it's very monarchical. It's not like you would think if it was. Never mind.
No. So this other door in the dining hall takes us to the lounge.
Ooh,
there is an anteroom, which goes into a basically bar area.
There's a conversation pit.
Yes. Uh, mostly, though, there are implements for drinking. It says in the
Yes.
module, drinking was apparently the most popular pastime here, for several earthenware tankard mugs hang from a row of hooks high on one wall. Many more are missing, it appears. An ale keg, long since dry but still smelling slightly of the brew, stands in one corner. Now, here's where we start to get some of the, um, other elements of old school Dungeons and Dragons fantasy role playing. At the center of the room is a carved statue,
Wait, let me
full
guess. Let me
size.
guess. Let me guess. Can I
Yep,
guess?
yep, go for it.
Is it a sexy babe?
It is a sexy nude female statue.
Yeah. It's the 70s, baby.
Yep. A carved statue full size of a nude human female beckoning with arms out front in a very alluring pose.
This was specifically for 13-year-old boys. You have to
Yep.
have a sexy babe. Even though there's no drawing of this sexy babe, it's just the imaginary existence of the sexy babe. You're only 13 once.
Right. In our ale hall for our brotastic,
Yes.
full of men at
Yes.
arms, and our two Chad warrior and wizard, adventuring guys.
Well, I'm not
We
thinking
don't
might have been closeted, and I'm
no
thinking of Lieutenant Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine when he has
no
to go into witness protection and he has to pretend to be straight. He's
right
like,
right.
I miss my wife and her weighty breasts. You know what I like about a
marble.
you know what I like about a woman? Nice weighty breasts.
Again, if they're made of marble.
I mean,
but you don't have it at this stage of the game. You don't have like giant pinup posters everywhere.
Sure.
Instead, you have a 5,000 gold piece white marble statue
that they're gonna try and take with them.
Right. However, according to the module, due to its tremendous weight and the fact it seems anchored to the floor, it seems impossible to remove without a major engineering effort. Even characters, and if you know old school D&D, you know what the statement means. Even characters with a strength of 18 will be unable to move it in any way.
This is the altar to their how not gay these two guys are. We can't be gay. Look at the sexy babe statue we just commissioned. You know how much that costs? Yeah. You know how long it took us to pick out the specific variety of marble? I mean, we didn't care about the specific variety of marble. All we wanted was the sexy babe.
Right. So in this kind of central part of the dungeon, the rooms just to the north of the dining hall and the kitchen, you are going to find Zeligar's workroom and bedroom. So right away, you're getting into kind of the wizard's area of the place. Zeligar's personal chambers, very austere. There's an extremely large and detailed stone carving, 70 feet in overall length, taking up one entire wall in his room, which depicts a mighty wizard, obviously Zeligar, on a hilltop, casting a spell in the air over a valley below with an entire army fleeing in confused panic. Also, get used to that, because that kind of iconography exists frequently throughout this entire dungeon.
Oh, for sure. It's all pictures of them being awesome and sexy babes.
Exactly. Yeah. There is a closet with lots of clothes, as well as several books, including a cursed tome and a tome that would allow you to learn to read languages.
Wow.
And there's a shooting gallery.
Wait, what?
Yeah. There is this kind of short room. It's about 20 feet long, and at the end there is a kind of cone-shaped opening that expands the sides of the rooms out, and has a double thick wall, according to the module, at the end of it. The room apparently was for meditation and study, as well as the practice of magic spells. Now, as players enter, the very first thing they are going to see at the south end of this room is a magnificent sight. A spectacle that is indeed impressive. 2 large wooden chests, each studded with jewels and overflowing with riches. A pile of gold pieces is arrayed around and within them, and scattered among this treasure trove is an assortment of glittering gems and jewels. Jeremy, how does your party react upon seeing such a thing?
Well, hold on. So, are we going to get back to the shooting gallery? Because this just became a Bass Pro Shop, and I'm
this is the same room. This is the same room.
So there's a shooting gallery. So this is a Bass Pro Shop. There's a shooting gallery,
and you're going to open the door, and there's a long corridor that's about 20 feet long, and at the very end of it, there's just a whole pile of treasure.
Okay, so
and that's what you see when you open the door.
Oh. I thought you meant like an actual shooting gallery.
Well, we'll get to that.
Sure. Okay. I get what I thought you were. I thought we were literally like I said. I thought we were in like a Bass Pro Shop situation where he had just a shooting gallery in his like a fake deer with a little circle.
Like he's got giant duck hunts.
Yeah, exactly.
Something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is my first dungeon, and so I don't use my brain and think. Well, if someone took the whatever the guards had, if there was somebody guarding the lower area that was like fully not hard to get to from here and stripped those guys of everything that might have had any monetary value, they certainly didn't leave an obviously overflowing riches beyond your wildest dreams chest at the end of this room. But I'm brand new. I don't think about that. And I go, oh, hey, treasure. We were looking for treasure, right? And I stroll right in to start counting. I'm running and I'm setting up a straight up Scrooge McDuck diving right into the vault.
It.
Yeah.
Yep.
Setting it up. Probably the thief.
You will in fact dive through empty air and only hit concrete.
Yeah.
Or stone masonry at this point, because it is an illusion.
Sure.
It's a permanent illusion. Interacting with it in any way causes it to be dispelled for 24 hours. And when it vanishes, all you're going to see is that this room, this whole corridor, including this widened bit at the end where the treasure illusion was, is pitted and scarred and kind of melted in places.
Ooh.
As if big, heavy fire or powerful acids had been flung about inside this room.
That's bad.
So this is a shooting gallery where Zeligar would come in and cast powerful spells down this corridor, blasting them against the reinforced far wall and causing everything to be kind of slightly messed up.
Oh, so it's less shooting gallery and more gun range.
Yes, it's very much a spell gun range for him to basically just let loose and blast and try different spells out. And then put a fake illusory thing here at the end of it for God knows why.
Sure. Well, I mean, that was one of the things he tried out, and he just didn't dispel it.
Right.
And I mean, I will be honest, I'm surprised it's not a sexy babe and it's a bunch of treasure, but hey,
That's the end of part 1 of In Search of the Unknown. Our exploration of Castle Quasqueton and the complicated relationship status of its founders continues in part 2. We have a new release every other Tuesday. If you hate cliffhangers and like your podcasts long and all at once, we offer the entire episode from start to finish, uninterrupted, over on our Patreon. Find out more at our home base, analogdungeon.com. See you next time.